know that Africa is the place where the body of the first man was found? My daddy says that makes it the place where all people originated from. I'm from Africa, you from Africa, you African booty scratcher.
We make niggas disappear like that triangle of Bermuda. They can't find his body, but they know that I'm the shooter. I say cut my sentence in half, and I'll spread a little rumor. Deal? Well, you can look in Oklahoma if you want to find them Sooners.
If I say to you Columbus discovered America in 1492, if I was your teacher, you said no, Columbus didn't discover America in 1492. I tell you, you flunked the course.
Whoa, whoa, Blue Honey Boys, you know. No, what it do? That bird down there, nigga. Blue Honey Boys, you know. Fuck Snoop. I know niggas about my dorm. Black on mine. Look, cause it's the Whoop-de-Ville. We gang banging dope slang. Up on the front line trying to get paid. This the Whoop-de-Ville. You niggas wanna meet the troopers? 2 fingers in the thumb. Nate Wood, stupid. This the Whoop-de-Ville. Whoa.
Royal blue flags, the reason I ain't graduate, cause I was crippin' on campus. Maxie, blue wall when I catch him. If he land up in the dorm, me and the homies might stretch him. With the extras, everywhere I go, keep it low in case I gotta fold a nigga like clothes. It's you and know, I was born in Clean Oaks, I'm from the village, nigga, listen, cause my hood do the most. We in the streets happy, cause we ready. Blue strings and gold chains, I wouldn't change for a Grammy. Cutter say love me, my niggas hug me, put a huggy on a nigga. If he die, then fuck him. We don't just dish, we pullin' up, toss the hood up and let the chopper bust like blah. Like fuck it, do your one, nigga. We ain't had shit growing up, we had it rough,
cause it's
nigga.
the Whoop-de-Ville. We gang banging dope slang. Up on the front line trying to get paid. This the Whoop-de-Ville. We gang banging dope slang. We on the front line trying to get paid. Cause it's the Whoop-de-Ville. We gang banging dope slang. Up on the front line trying to get paid. This the Whoop-de-Ville. You niggas wanna meet the troopers? 2 fingers in the thumb. Nate Wood, stupid. This the Whoop-de-Ville. Bottles in the club. It's hood bangers serving hollows in them slugs. We don't give no fucks, we stay turned up. You catch my niggas in these streets, I guarantee we done. Whoa, C blocking, that's the side we banging. Codename Blue Hunters, that's the side B slanging. Whoa, and all my niggas know for Glocks and rocks. The police try to shut it down, but it still don't stop. Nigga get shot, guaranteed come back. We might take a man down, but we slide right back. Whoa, 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 cause ain't shit changed. 90 deep for 7 out, I bet we still got aim. And we still gang bang. I teach you niggas about the sanctions, 2 fingers in the thumb and leave a flop. Niggas thinking in the sways, know what's up. You wanna come and dump, but we be coming through as broad day, nigga, we come and gun. Cause it's the Whoop-de-Ville, we gang banging dope slang. Up on the front line trying to get paid. This the Whoop-de-Ville, we gang banging dope slang. We on the front line trying to get paid. Cause it's the Whoop-de-Ville. We gang banging dope slang. Up on the front line trying to get paid. This the Whoop-de-Ville. You niggas wanna meet the troopers? 2 fingers in the thumb. Nate Wood, stupid. This the Whoop-de-Ville. Hot 1 and 2, rest in peace, baby. AD nigga and Lil Law from the team. And Big Shameem, baby, you both 8-9, baby, maniac for 69th Street is every line of this. Any known for 59th and T-Bone, what it do? Attitude regulator, can't forget the Snoopy Blue. Whoa, whoa, the gas cruise niggas, now it's Blue Hunters, then we hanging Stanford Ave quicker. What you know about that Def Lane? Nina's NCS days, my essays press FK. Everybody in my section coming through, we tested, we tripping, nigga. The hollow tips is ripping for the sake. Cause it's the Whoop-de-Ville, we gang banging dope slang. Up on the front line trying to get paid. This the Whoop-de-Ville, we gang banging dope slang. We on the front line trying to get paid. Cause it's the Whoop-de-Ville, we gang banging dope slang. Up on the front line trying to get paid. This the Whoop-de-Ville. You niggas wanna meet the troopers? 2 fingers in the thumb. Nate Wood, stupid. This the Whoop-de-Ville. Whoa, the most gang, nigga. First street to 1200 block crib. Z Blue, what it do? Pack crib, whoa. 8-9 bastard. 6-9 to Def Lane, nigga. 97th Street extra on mine. Blue Honey Boys. Cone site. You know who did it. Nate Wood, whoa.
What it do, what it do, what it do. It's your host, Be Note the Most. Back for another classic in the book of the SGI Talks. Game Day, number 12, part 5 of the Black Seminole Chief John Horse Highway Reviling celebration. This gonna be the final video to this Game Day. Legendary John Horse, Black Seminole Chief. I didn't even expect for this to be this long, you know what I'm saying? I was just pointing out the fact, as far as on part 1, it's how the Lumbies, when I was checking out the Lumbies being recognized, or having their hearing to be recognized, and what they was talking about, it took me back to when I read about when John Horse had went down to D.C. in 1844, and basically for like the same program. So I thought that it would be good to shed some light on John Horse, this whole story. Definitely have to have a chapter in the book of the SGI of the folks John Horse. One of the most untalked about black hero of America. And it all is based off racism, and it's all based, now this is my theory, this is all based off racism, prejudice, and also the acknowledgement and, not the acknowledgement of black people being from the New World, because it's going back to a religious type aspect in how black people gotta be in a certain position. But that's why I kind of brought this on part 2. I kind of pointed out the fact that with this website that I was at, matter of fact, let me just go to the website right now. So with this website where I was getting all this information from, this is the johnhorse.com website. Had a lot of good information, so I thought that it would be good, basically, just to get all that information documented within the book of the SGI Talks. So you never know how websites be scrubbed and all type of stuff be happening, so you never know what might happen. So we got this in the files. Just went through everything, but just like I said on part 2, I was pointing out the fact that John Horse's mother is an ancient Floridian, not an African. And I was I was bringing up some of the ancient Floridian tribes and how it's connecting with the slaves story, with the maroon story, saying that his mother is a black Floridian, not an ancient Floridian, not an African, because they just put out there that his mother is African, and they just leave it there and say, okay, she was lost in the files and stuff like that. But then they'll bring up his father and say, well, his father was Spanish and Indian. But then they'll turn around and say that John Horse was a full-blood Negro. So, it's stuff like that, where we gotta where I read between the lines and bring it to the folks. On part 3, I was showing that John Horse recognized the Black Seminoles as a separate tribe from the Creeks. And within this website, there was a lot of good information, that started back the history of Seminole and Cimarron and Maroon, kind of going back to a lot of Spanish history and a lot of that type of history. But it was a lot of holes, that I had to fill in the gap. And I want to say it's biased, but it got to be biased because I know that I ain't the only one that's, finding certain little information if they always in the books. I know they know about Staten Catalina to Africa. I know they know about the town of Africa, but they never talk about it. They just bring up Fort Mose. So stuff like that and other little information also that was, getting standings, the Yamasees, the Tabakas, the Timacuas, and the Aquawalas, and other ancient Floridian tribes, just trying to put a highlight on that. Yesterday, I did a highlight more on the Seminoles didn't become slave owners on paper until the 1847s, which they was kind of more leading to the fact when, when the Second Seminole War was kind of calming down, and as far as like the black surrender was coming out west. And I was pointing out the fact that Marcellus Duval was coming from South Carolina, and he had taught the Indians how to be slave owners, because before that they wasn't slave owners, but just like I say, because they in a slave state, which Florida would be considered a slave state within their area, even though they just took Florida over during that time, and there was a lot of, they was basically warring over the lands in Florida. There was just a lot of going on. I also was pointing out the fact that with the immigrations, it's with the EM, not the IM. You know what I'm saying? And, that's a big difference between going to a foreign territory or just staying within the same land, but just moving on a different part of your own land. And that's what we come up under. And as far as them dealing with us, as far as them dealing with us the way that they dealt with us at that time frame, because of all the foolery and the fuckery that been going on since since Ponce de Leon, but going back to more, if we're talking about the United States, more when Charleston was being built from 1680 all the way up to I guess you would say the 1840s, when we did come out here. So, that's almost 200 years of straight terrorism and, warring. A lot of generations just, come up like that. And it definitely affects the family. A lot of family got milestone thoughts, hit the mall, everything. He bought what he do. A lot of families got separated through slavery. A lot of people got killed, and there was just a lot going on during that time frame for the Black Seminoles. And so part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 was some good builds, some long builds. So like I said, we kind of just letting AI translate the website. And, just getting all this information. If it's a gone and knock this out, it really ain't too much more on the website. And then we're going to go on and listen to the John Horse Highway Reviling and go on and wrap up this code series right here for the legendary John Horse. Make sure that you're pulled up and rolled up. I'm so glad that you showed up. To comment, like, subscribe, tell a friend, and do it again.
At the same time that the fight for black liberty was reaching a climax in the United States, in Mexico, America's most successful black freedom fighters were persevering through another series of violent civil upheavals in their new country. Like the U.S., Mexico was racked by civil conflicts. John Horse had practiced neutrality in the affairs of his adopted country, but both the War of the Reform, 1858 to 1861, and the War of the Intervention, 1861 to 1864, tested his approach. By 1864, Mexico was so weak that France was able to install a foreign emperor, Maximilian I of Austria. According to Black Seminole traditions, John Horse forsook neutrality to help expel the French, fighting on the side of the Mexican patriot Benito Juarez.
That's great.
During the years before and after the U.S. Civil War, 1859 to 1870, the Black Seminoles under John Horse lived in the Mexican state of Paris. The capital seat was a garden city, known then, as now, as a land of eternal springtime. In theory, the Black Seminoles moved to Paris as a precaution against Texas slavers. Rumors were circulating in 1859 that filibusters in Texas were once again planning an invasion to seize runaway slaves from Mexico. While the threat of slave raiders was the nominal reason for the move, Mexican authorities had other motives for relocating the Maroons. In a region of Indian raids and civil war, their military services were valuable. Unfortunately for historians, the Paris archives burned during the Mexican Revolution in 1911. As a result, many details of the Black Seminole period in Paris remain obscure.
So they're saying some of the records got burnt up in the Mexican Revolutionary War in the 1911. That could have shedded more light on the Muskogee.
While details from the period are sparse, memoirs and government reports make it clear that John Horse enjoyed fame throughout the borderlands. As a reward for his military services, he reportedly became a commissioned colonel in the Mexican army. Whether he received the honor for fighting the French or the Apaches remains uncertain. Equally obscure are details of his daily existence. Despite the turmoil of Mexican politics, however, this may have been one of the more secure periods in the Maroon Leadero's life. By the time emancipation reached Texas on June 19, 1865, John Horse, then about 53, had lived for 15 years in a country without slavery. He was still married to Susan, with whom he would remain until his death. His exploits had won him prestige and fame as a scouturiero and likely a measure of wealth, at least comparatively speaking. Mexicans and Anglos described encounters in the plains and mountains with El Coronel Juan Caballo. He was often seen riding his favorite white horse, a Euro-American de Euro, who was mounted with a silver-plated saddle and a gold-plated pommel in the shape of a Horsea's head.
Long live John Horse. Ain't gotta say no more.
After 1865, John Horse began working to resecure the Muskoge's land grant in Nacimiento. During the Paris period, the land was under recurring threat. Kickapoos and squatters temporarily claimed it, and Unionist refugees from the U.S. Civil War were even found living on the property in 1866. More ominously, Mexicans in the region sought title to the land, conspiring with Coahuila's corrupt government officials. As he had done in the 1840s when he sought aid from 2 U.S. presidents, John Horse appealed to the highest authority he could find, in this case Benito Juárez, the Mexican president and political leader of the forces that ousted Maximilian. The government under Juárez had confirmed the Kickapoo land grant in Nacimiento in October of 1866. In November, responding to Black Seminole appeals, Juárez affirmed the Muskogee grant as well. His action secured a homeland for John Horse and his followers, at least for the time being. Between their temporary lands in Paris and their reservation in Nacimiento, the Black Seminoles had homes, yet many remained severely impoverished. At the same time, Texas was experiencing renewed threats along its southern and western frontiers from border Indians, principally Lipan Apaches and Kickapoos crossing from Mexico. U.S. Army officers charged with defending the Texas frontier, especially those who knew the record of the Black Seminoles as border guards, saw ideal conditions for recruiting them to Texas. On March 17, 1870, a group of Black Seminoles under headman John Kibitz entered negotiations at Fort Duncan, Texas, to offer their services as scouts for the U.S. Army. The group came at the invitation of the Army. Captain Frank Perry, the commander at Fort Duncan, believed the Maroons could make excellent scouts. The government approved his plan to enlist them. In official record, the blacks were called Indian Scouts because the Army had no other classification. Officers well understood, however, that these were Seminole Negroes, not Native Americans. Their ranks included men like Dembo Factor, a Maroon warrior who had fought the U.S. Army and participated in Dade's massacre 35 years earlier in Florida. John Horse did not take part directly in the negotiations that led to the formation of the Scouts, and he never served in the group. He advised them, however, and served as a bridge to the U.S. Army, staying in contact with regional U.S. commanders and serving as an interpreter during negotiations with Indian tribes in the region.
And you already know that I'm going against them saying that they're not Native Americans for the fact that these people, a lot of their ancestors was found in America and enslaved within America. And this is another example of pseudo. It's another example of pseudo knowledge as far as these people coming across black people that they finding in America and automatically saying they from Africa, but they from Africa. That's pseudo. So when they're talking about nationality, got to be a little bit more precise. Hopefully that we can.
Both the Army and the Maroons understood the arrangement in Texas as temporary. A large portion of the Black Seminoles had expressed a desire to emigrate back to the Oklahoma Indian Territory. The end of American slavery had made the territory less foreboding. Maroons who once sought freedom in Mexico now wanted to reunite with kinsmen and former Seminole Indian allies, who likewise sought reunion. Until a reunion could take place, however, the Maroons agreed to serve the U.S. In exchange they received money, rations, stock, agricultural equipment and, problematically, promises of land or the use of it. The precise terms of the agreement between Captain Perry and John Kibitz have never been located. From the 1870s on, generations of black Seminoles understood the treaty, as they called it, as an exchange of military services for a promise of land either in Texas or the Indian Territory. Officers of the period corroborated that such a promise existed, but documentation did not survive, and the issue remained a sore point for the next century. It remains so to this day, asterisk. In 1870, the Seminole Negroes were about to enter one of their most storied phases. Serving as advance scouts for the Army, armed with Sharps rifles and Spencer carbines that replaced their traditional muzzle loaders, the Maroons became a feared fighting force. They were one of the pivotal units, possibly the pivotal unit, in the U.S. counter-raids that effectively ended Indian hostilities on the Texas frontier. U.S. regular troops could rout the Indians, but only when they could find them. The dangerous work of locating hostiles fell to the Seminole Negroes. For the U.S. Army, circumstances could not have created a more suitable set of scouts at a time when they were desperately needed. Many of the scouts had more than 20 years of experience as Indian fighters in the Badlands of Texas and Mexico. They spoke Spanish, English, and Indian languages. They had survived in the region's barren wilderness through extraordinary skills as trappers, hunters, and warriors. In time, their service won the admiration of every officer they served with. Their most famous exploits took place under John L. Bullis and Ranald S. Mackenzie, men who both became generals based on actions during the Texas Indian Wars that drew heavily on the skills of the black Seminoles. Under Bullis and Mackenzie, black Seminole scouts engaged in 26 lengthy expeditions against hostiles from 1873 to 1881. Their actions were especially critical to the famous Remolino raid in 1873, when they helped track and attack the Mexican-based Kickapoos, whom the black Seminoles knew from Nacimiento. The expedition turned the tide in the Indian Wars by demonstrating that Mexico could no longer be an automatic safe haven for raiding parties. A year later, four scouts played a decisive role in the Red River War, which was the last major stand of the Comanches, Kiowas, and Southern Cheyenne. One of the heroes was Scout Adam Payne, whom an observer described as a big black kinky-headed Negro, wearing horns. Payne, the surname can be traced to King Payne of the 18th century Florida Seminoles, won the Medal of Honor for demonstrating habitual courage and bravery under fire.
Yeah, that's his peoples. What I'm saying, man, that's just people's, man. We already got Aunt Bessie Payne. That's one of Aunt Bessie Payne's kids. She already said, they already tried to call us out and say, oh, yeah, you look like Africa. She say, no, I got Seminole in my blood. I'm Seminole. The same thing with John Horace. And they say, oh, you look like a full-blooded Negro, but then they gonna try to come around and say that, oh, his daddy was Spanish and Indian. His mother was an ancient Floridian.
The Scouts' most celebrated action took place in 1875 during a skirmish with Comanches. After tracking about 25 Comanches to their camp on the Pecos River, 3 Scouts and Lieutenant Bullis opened fire. They killed 3 warriors before the Comanches realized how few were their attackers. The Scouts escaped when the Indians counterattacked, but Bullis could not corral his mount. Turning back, Sergeant John Ward led a dramatic ride into the teeth of the enemy, narrowly rescuing Bullis while Private Pompey Factor and trumpeter Isaac Payne kept the Indians at bay. The 4 men dashed to safety, then rode 56 miles to reach Fort Clark later that day. Bullis credited the Scouts with saving his hair, and all 3 Scouts received medals of honor for their gallantry. Throughout the period, though they were often outnumbered in hostile engagements, the Scouts never lost a man. Had they been white, their courage would have been the stuff of legend.
That's a fact, and that's the whitewash that I'll be talking about, where just like our history got washed, it really didn't get washed because they just blanketed it by saying, oh yeah, the Seminoles was down there tearing stuff up. They just try to say it's Indians, but no, it's the black Indians.
The historical treatment of the black Seminoles ran parallel to the experience of the Buffalo Soldiers, black members of the 9th and 10th U.S. Cavalries and 24th and 25th U.S. Infantries, with whom the Scouts regularly served after 1875 and into the 1890s. The 2 groups mingled at Fort Duncan and then at Fort Clark, where the Army moved most of the Scouts by 1876. In many ways, the Black Seminoles were pioneers for the Buffalo Soldiers. They won the first effective U.S. emancipation of rebellious slaves, in 1838, which established military and legal precedents for the emancipation that black soldiers helped win through the Civil War. Many of the first Buffalo Soldiers were Civil War veterans. Out west, the Maroons shared knowledge of the frontier and, more practically, helped locate the enemy, ensuring the success of the black regiments. For all the bravery that the Seminole Negro Indian Scouts displayed, there were dark ironies behind their role in the American West. From 1873 to 1881, the Scouts played a major role in one of the country's most mythologized events, the pacification of the Texas frontier. White heroes and cowboys would later receive almost all the credit, not just in dime novels and movies, but also in the state legislature and public memory of Texas. Regardless of who deserved credit, however, the pacification of the frontier was morally complex. Indians hunted down by black warriors were hardly likely to view the Maroons as heroes, freedom fighters, or peacekeepers. For Kiowa Chief Lone Wolf, whose favorite son was killed in an encounter with Scouts in 1873, the black warriors were probably more akin to mercenaries. Contemporary efforts to re-examine the black role in the West ought to recall these complex dynamics of the frontier, not to view the period with the bad parts taken out, but rather with a cold eye on facts and an historian's perspective on its dynamic place in the American story. The Black Seminole descendant and community historian William Warrior advises such an approach when he warns against viewing the Scouts as heroes. It can be tempting to hold up both the Buffalo Soldiers and Scouts as forgotten paragons of American virtue. In terms of the white society of their time, they surely were heroes, protecting citizens and property interests while serving as some of the most effective agents in the advance of manifest destiny. But the same society that the Scouts protected would continue to disenfranchise them. If the Scouts saw themselves primarily as Maroons or Black Indians, not African Americans, white society never made such distinctions. Meanwhile, the Scouts' fleeting, largely uncelebrated glory came at the expense of Native American lives and freedom. If the Black warriors were heroes to white Texans, it was an ambiguous honor from the start.
Now let's talk about this. Gotta read between the lines right here when they saying, matter of fact, let me highlight it. But the same society that the Scouts protected would continue to disenfranchise them if the Scouts saw themselves primarily as Maroons or Black Indians, not African Americans. White society never made such distinctions. So the argument was there that them saying that they not African Americans, they are Maroons or Black Indians. And that's what I push, the multi-Maroon American, aka Black Indians. And that's what time it is.
By the mid-1870s, most of the Scouts and their families were living in Brackettville, Texas, around Fort Clark, where John Horse himself had moved by 1876. They settled along the banks of Las Moras Creek, the same creek where the emigrants paused before crossing into Mexico in 1850. They built chink houses made of mud mixed with stone and straw in the northern Mexican style. Women managed the domestic chores, tended kitchen gardens, and earned side income working for families around the fort. About 30 men eked out a meager living as Scouts. The pay of the Scouts was barely sufficient to feed their families, let alone the extended community whom the Scouts tried to support. Elderly Black Seminoles, like John Horse's sister Juana, were often destitute. Throughout the period, officers at Fort Clark tried to alleviate the poverty of the Maroons. They frequently petitioned the government for rations, which were dispensed erratically, usually on the initiative of local officers without government approval. With equal urgency, officers sent and endorsed a series of formal requests to relocate the Maroons to the Oklahoma Indian Territory. Such a move was seen as a last hope. General Philip Sheridan wrote the U.S. Adjutant General in 1875. That some action will be taken to meet the wants of a deserving people whose service has been and can still be made so valuable to the government. John Horse and John Kibitz traveled to San Antonio in December 1873 to petition General C.C. Auger, military commander of the Department of Texas, to help them secure land. John Horse said he would relocate to Oklahoma or back to Florida. It was almost a throwback to the 1840s when John Horse told General Jessup he would move to Florida, Mexico, or even Africa, any place his people could find a safe home. Auger had authorized the Remolino raid in which the Scouts played such an important role. He wrote the Adjutant General advocating the Black Seminole case for land and the request that Mexicans who had intermarried with the community be allowed to enlist as Scouts. The War Department took no action on either item. As a result, some members of the community returned to Mexico to maintain their land at Nacimiento.
Yeah, I find it interesting that they saying let's go to Africa, but they didn't send them to Africa as far as just, getting them up out of there. If they thinking that they bad people, then they gonna be bad for business. Why they just didn't take them back to Africa right then and there? Could have just put them in chains and, what I'm saying, just took them back in Africa the same way that they peoples came over. The way that they said, right? Just when talking about going back to Africa, stop it. That's the slave activists. The anti-slave activists.
While military authorities appreciated the Black Seminoles, other white residents of Kinney County expressed less gratitude for their protection. In April 1876, 35 citizens complained to the Secretary of War that unenlisted blacks living around Fort Clark were stealing property and encroaching upon the lands of citizens. Black Seminoles may have been stealing livestock to stave off starvation. Officers close to the Maroons, like Bullis, had warned that this might result if the government continued to deny rations and land. It did not help that the Maroons were squatters on private lands that the government only leased. Just as importantly, the Scouts had to contend with the legacies of slavery and the Civil War. They were armed, black militants living alongside former sons and daughters of the Confederacy in a state where slavery had only been outlawed for 11 years.
In the belly of the beast, surviving in a whole new environment, whole new world.
Tensions broke into violence on May 19 in one of the closest scrapes of John Horse's long and perilous life. Riding from a local saloon near the end of the day, John Horse and Scout Titus Payne were crossing near the Fort Clark Cemetery when shots rang out. Titus Payne fell dead. John Horse was hit 4 times. His horse, American, was badly wounded. But somehow both horse and rider escaped, riding to safety in the Seminole camp. It was at least the 4th failed assassination attempt on John Horse. The would-be assassins were never caught, but suspicion fell quickly on the outlaw John Kingfisher, a notorious borderland gang leader who had fought with Black Seminoles in the past. The assassination was perceived as a clear attempt to push the Maroons from their land around the fort.
So, long live Titus Payne, long live John Horse, and I find it interesting that his horse was named American and not African. I find that very interesting. I could be reaching.
The ambush did not have the desired effect, since a majority of the scouts remained in Brackettville. In the wake of the violence, however, several of the most influential older black Seminoles decided to leave. The most prominent among them was the 64-year-old John Horse, who returned to Nacimiento to recuperate from his wounds. Shortly after his departure, Medal of Honor winner Pompey Factor joined him in Coahuila, along with a small group of other Maroons. Effectively returning to the Spanish culture of their youth, they would hereafter pursue their homeland in Mexico, not the U.S.
Long live John Horse and all the Maroons, like Pompey Factor, long live Pompey Factor and all the black Seminoles down in Brackettville, Texas. Folks.
In Texas, the Scouts and their families continued to squat on lands near Fort Clark, hoping for a resolution to the Treaty of 1870, which they understood as a promise of land. Bullis, Mackenzie, General C.C. Augur, and General E.O.C. Ord were just some of the leading officers who tried to persuade the Office of Indian Affairs to settle the situation by granting lands in Texas, Florida, or Oklahoma. Their work was in vain, as bureaucratic obstacles combined with racist politics to prevent any resolution. It did not help that the military necessity of the Scouts was dwindling over the same period. After major expeditions in 1876 and 1877, the Scouts did not have another encounter with hostile Indians until 1881. They fought their last Indian battle in April 1881, tracking a band of Lipan Apaches who had committed robbery and murder. This was the last major Indian raid in southwest Texas. Fittingly, black warriors led the counter-response that closed the Texas frontier. The Scouts remained an active contingent on the frontier into the next century. Though their unit retained its name, however, the group became increasingly mixed ethnically, adding Hispanics and state-raised blacks who had no direct ties to the Maroons. As the glory days of their Indian tracking receded, the Scouts also faded into obscurity. Their absence from the historical record made it all the easier for myths of white men taming the wild frontier to take full hold in the popular imagination.
You know, it's funny that they say state raised, because my grandma's sister, one of the last siblings that she had, telling me that it was the difference even out here when they was coming up. Of people being, some blacks being called state raised, which mean they was from, that they really was, not really, but that they wasn't the original blacks that came early, that they came late, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, they kind of made a difference, and people kind of didn't like that state raised label back then.
Back in Mexico, John Horse encountered more troubles with the Nacimiento land grant. An Englishman purchased a questionable deed to the land and then conspired with the state governor to oust the Muskogos. The community wanted to send someone to appeal the case to the federal government in Mexico City. John Horse was chosen for the mission. When Kenneth Wiggins Porter interviewed black Seminoles in the 1940s, the oldest still recollected the party they attended as children, sending John Horse off on his journey to Mexico City. He rode his white horse, American, whom Kickapoo Indians decorated with feathers and braids. His small party rode south to Saltillo and Monterey. From there, John Horse faced another 1,000 miles on horseback. It was an arduous ride for anyone, let alone a 70-year-old man heading into Mexico's rugged, mountainous interior. John Horse's goal was to meet with Porfirio Diaz, the de facto ruler, but not at the time president, of Mexico, to appeal directly for aid securing the land grant. Did he meet with Diaz? Porter relates the details of such a meeting, derived from black Seminole oral traditions. It makes for fine reading. In truth, as Porter's posthumous editors point out, almost no facts are known about John Horse's final trip. Two things alone are known for certain. Diaz did subsequently intervene to protect the Nacimiento grant. And during the trip John Horse died, most likely on August 10th, in a military hospital in Mexico City.
Long live John Horse.
There were no obituaries when John Horse died in Mexico City. He was buried without fanfare in a sixth-class grave. And so ended one of the more remarkable lives in 19th-century America. Born a nominal slave to Indians in Spanish Florida, Juan Caballo became a free warrior of color who helped inspire and lead the largest slave rebellion in U.S. history. At least twice during the Second Seminole War, at Fort Brooke and Fort Marion, his daring helped turn the tide in the largest Indian war in U.S. history. Castigated as a scoundrel by leading U.S. politicians and generals, he later became their ally. Out west, alliance deepened into mutual respect, as Army officers from the Indian Territory to Washington, D.C. embraced the man and his cause. When a divided country proved unable to grant his followers the freedom they had been promised, John Horse led a daring exodus to Mexico, where he created a safe haven from slavery. Adapting to a harsh new environment, he became a celebrated figure of the frontier, and yet his very stature was nearly the cause of his death at the hands of slave raiders and assassins.
Now we gotta, they just saying, "Oh, you ran away from slavery." We gotta recognize that they never was in slavery. They were, they ended up running to Mexico and getting away from it, even though other people did get captured and did get enslaved, got killed. But, this was one of the last ones. You know what I'm saying? This is one of the last ones, the last push, the last run. And it's a great story. And also want to put out there, I ain't put it out there in none of the other parts, but I want to put it out there that I am related to John Horse. And it's coming from my grandpa's side, on his grandma's side, on his daddy's side. we related to Negro Abraham on my grandpa's side to his daddy's side, but on his grandpa's side, on his daddy's side. So his daddy, it's my great great grandpa, is his mama is related to John Horse, and his daddy is related to Negro Abraham. And they related to, he related to John Horse through Annie Bowlegs. They came up through Mexico during this time frame with that last bunch. They came up from Mexico up to Sasaco. We walked into the Seminole territory. And kin to his daddy, Pompey Abraham. So then we got King Cudjoe, related to King Cudjoe. It's a three-way to the legends. And it's a lot of other my folks related like that also, but through my grandpa's mother, through my grandpa's mother. That's how we relate to King Cudjoe. But if it's to go on and finish this up, just like I said, when they talk about the slavery, it was something that they encountered in Florida, being found in Florida, and pushed against that and fought against that. Like I said, even though some did get enslaved, some did get captured, but we pushed against that for a long time, and it led us out here. So, just even when we was in Florida, it never was slavery. So the Indians never did have us in slavery. Like I said, they didn't know how to do none of that as far as paperwork, stuff like that, until the 1847 when they got the game from Marcellus Duval. And, they fought so hard for their land and for their turf that the government ended up allowing them to say, well, y'all go out there with the Indians and we gonna, y'all fought for the land, we gonna recognize y'all like that. You know what I'm saying? And it's all good. But when we get out here, it was a whole different story with a whole different white boy. So, but leading up to them folks, you know what I'm saying, my ancestors coming out from Florida out to this way. Before that, it was a lot of people that did get enslaved, that did get killed, did get captured, got misplaced. And that's going back. That's going back to the 1600s, like I say. Matter of fact, before that, but we're talking about the United States, definitely going back to the 1680s. So, but we end up surviving. We end up, coming out this way. And it's just what time it is, man. And I'm so proud to be a part of that lineage. The Black Seminoles, the Black Indians, the Muskogees, the ancient Floridians, the Yamassees, the Bagas, Timacoors, the Oklawalas, the ancient Floridian tribes that they say that they extinct or destroyed. So happy to be a part of that, and also, got the Creek too. I ain't gonna front about that, but it's like I say, they new Seminoles, and the Blacks is the old Seminoles. But we first go on and finish this up, though.
From the onset of the Second Seminole War in 1835 to the last days of his final mission to Mexico City in 1882, he dedicated his life to securing a homeland for his family and followers. He achieved that end with his final action. The Mexican government secured the land grant, which Porfirio Diaz and 2 more Mexican presidents subsequently confirmed. John Horse's descendants still live there to this day. In Oklahoma, the Seminole Indian leadership, which had briefly been favorable to the Black Seminoles after the U.S. Civil War, returned to John Jumper, a former slaveholder and supporter of the Confederacy. Jumper rejected the idea of allowing Black Seminoles from Texas and Mexico to return to the territory. He contended that the emigrants had forfeited all claims on the nation when they fled in 1850. Despite Jumper's efforts, 2 parties of Black Seminoles had returned by 1883, settling clandestinely among their Seminole freedmen kin. Over the next century, ethnic tensions would ebb and flow between the Native Americans and African Americans living within the geographic confines of the Seminole Nation. Issues of tribal status and ethnic identity remain hotly contested today.
And once again, like I said, we gotta look at when they say immigrant, it's the EM, not the IM. It's the EM, not the IM. And on top of that, they was dealing with us up under the powers of war. You know what I'm saying? They was dealing with us up under a different type of statute as far as, warring within the land and the captures of the land. So just like I say, these folks was found, and it always been pushback. But at the end of the day, they always been there and being part of the culture and being the culture. And as we can see, was some of the coldest survivors and fighters and the illest for a long time, but it just been more disrespect, more lying to our story, more fabricating, more abolitionist stories. Just like I was bringing up the other day, we got to watch out for the abolitionists and the slave activists. My bad, we got a storm out here, big thunder. I don't know if it's gonna mess up anything, but you gotta watch out for the sword tongue, because even though they be mean and right, they'll try to control the narrative. And they was one of the main ones too. Put the blanket term out there, and they fall up under that. Religious also. Don't get it twisted. Finish this up, though. Oh yeah, just like I say, that group that they say that came out in the 1880s. My grandpa's grandma was part of that. Annie Bowlegs was part of that immigration. So this ain't nothing really but family history. We getting all this. Hopefully that the young folks in the next generation be able to slide through and get some of this information You never know what might happen to it.
In 1881, John Lapham Bullis released command of the Seminole Negro Indian Scouts after the border was deemed safe. Texans gave him a sword and citations of gratitude. Bullis asked the government to give land to the Scouts, first in Texas near their posts, and later in the Indian Territory. The government responded by continuing to erect bureaucratic obstacles. A favorite officer of President Theodore Roosevelt, Bullis was promoted late in life from major to brigadier general. He died at an Army hospital in San Antonio in 1911. Upon hearing of his former commander's death, Scout Sandy Fay made a pilgrimage to San Antonio and stood vigil at the general's door for a day and a night.
Man, shout out to the Faves. Them is kin folks also. Real though. Shout out to the Faves. That's real. It's real people.
The Seminole Negro Indian Scouts remained active after 1882, but with the closing of the frontier, the group was often on the verge of being disbanded. After the Army captured Geronimo in 1886, the Scouts' activities were scaled back to policing cattle rustlers. In later years, they aided U.S.-based actions against Mexican revolutionaries. Scouts and their families continued to live as squatters on land near Fort Clark. Despite efforts from military leaders like Zenas R. Bliss, Bullis, and Ranald Mackenzie, the government never saw fit to grant land to the Maroons. In 1914, the Scouts were finally disbanded. The soldiers were ordered to leave the fort, and their families to leave their settlement on Los Morris Creek. The expulsion of the families, writes Kevin Mulroy, was the ultimate expression of the deplorable treatment the United States government had dished out to the Seminole Maroons since their return from Mexico. Scouts and their families eventually scattered around West Texas. A core remained living in Brackettville and around the fort. Today Brackettville is the spiritual center of the Black Seminole community and home to the Seminole Indian Scouts Cemetery Association, which maintains an historic graveyard for Scouts and their families.
That's a case right there. Come on, man. How we put it down, Army, made it comfortable for them to be able to build up Texas and go to the West. Dominated the Indians out this way. What they say they would have 74, they got 74 scalps. Set a record, 74 scalps. So the Comanches and whoever else out there. Yeah, they were the ones that were scalping. And even in Florida. See, but they ain't gonna highlight that though. They're not gonna highlight that, man. Just kicked us off the land. Matter of fact, that's what I'm saying, crazy. You imagine that going on now in the military. You got the Navy SEAL putting it down, and they family don't got nowhere to stay. They just abandon them. Crazy, huh? They still ain't made it right. They still ain't made it right. They still ain't made it right, man. That's wicked. Will they ever make it right? I don't know. But I guess a nigga would be moving like a buster if You know what I'm saying? If we ask them to be right, that'll be Buster. Like, how would you be right? That'll be Buster.
In 1887, Los Mascogos, the black Seminoles who remained in Nacimiento, received an official statement from Mexican President Porfirio Diaz protecting their land grant. Mexico's perennial instability and weak civil institutions continued to place the land under threat, however, necessitating two more presidential decrees, from Venustiano Carranza in 1919 and Lázaro Cárdenas in 1938. Cardenas added 2,892 hectares to the grant. Descendants of the Mascogos remain in Nacimiento, where they live close to the Kickapoo Reservation. They have long since intermarried with local Mexicans around the nearby town of Melchor de Musquiz, and yet visitors even today can catch sight of the occasional Afro-Mexican cowboy, conjuring images of a bygone era. The Black Seminoles might have been lost to history if not for the work of a few scholars. In the 19th century, after the brief popularity of Joshua Reed Giddings' The Exiles of Florida, 1858, the Black Seminoles quickly receded as a subject of historical writing. Occasionally a popular work, like John Bach McMaster's History of the People of the United States, 1883 to 1913, would touch on their story. With the rise of Southern revisionism during the 1890s, however, their story fell utterly out of vogue. Historians steeped in Southern myths or seeking to avoid inflammatory North-South topics were not interested in black rebels who successfully fought for freedom. The Black Seminoles fell even from the margins of American history.
Yeah. Just kind of throw us in the back of the history books. It's a cold game. Cold game. But now they talking about, oh, they was the first slave liberators. They did this, they did that. Woo 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 woo. Ain't get no love though. Ain't get no love.
Lawrence Foster began to reverse the trend with the publication of a graduate thesis in 1935 on Negro-Indian relationships in the Southeast. Despite the broad title, the book mainly focused on the Black Seminoles. It was based upon historical research and anthropological interviews that Foster conducted in Oklahoma, Texas, and Mexico in 1929. After Foster, Kenneth Wiggins Porter, a business historian, became immersed in Black Seminole history. All contemporary writers on the Black Seminoles owe an enormous debt to Porter. His strongly narrative work, which re-examined primary sources, was enhanced by interviews that Porter began conducting with descendants of the Black Seminoles in Texas, Oklahoma, and Mexico in the 1940s. Porter's first articles on the Black Seminoles appeared in the 1940s in the Journal of Negro Studies and other periodicals that were seeking to depict U.S. racial history with more accuracy and less mythology. Many of the articles were collected in The Negro on the American Frontier, which Porter edited in 1971. A significant portion of Porter's work remains unpublished, housed in the Kenneth Wiggins Porter Collection at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. His scholarly contributions culminated with the posthumous publication, 15 years after his death, of Black Seminoles, History of a Freedom-Seeking People, 1996. The book was edited by Alshon Amos and Thomas Center, who continued to promote Black Seminole history. Center advised this project when it was initially conceived as a television documentary.
I just find it interesting that for some reason down here in this area, it was a real big pushback, really nowhere else. But really nowhere else a real big pushback like that, you know what I'm saying? But they say, oh yeah, y'all the same as everybody else. I don't know. Make you think though.
Porter's combined scholarship influenced all of the subsequent writings on the Black Seminoles, from groundbreaking studies like Daniel Littlefield's Africans and Seminoles and Kevin Mulroy's Freedom on the Border to scholarly contributions from Bruce Edward Twyman, even popular musings by Alice Walker. More recently, the scholarly and popular works have been augmented by references to the Black Seminoles in films, in John Sayles' Lone Star and Danny Glover's Buffalo Soldiers. Despite the miniature flowering of Black Seminole awareness over the past decade, historical reference works, and major scholars, remain blissfully unaware of the scope of the slave rebellion that the Maroons inspired and led. Likewise, their impact on the American abolitionist movement remains poorly understood at best, and generally ignored. Their minor but substantive impact on emancipation has been entirely overlooked. The original scholarship in this web documentary attempts to amend these final three omissions in particular, while documenting the story, placing it within the mainstream of the American experience, and making it accessible to general audiences. In closing, it is worth asking if the Black Seminoles were American heroes. The historical record may offer both too little and too much information to answer this question. On the one hand, there is not enough detail to weigh the merits of heroism in individual cases. On the other hand, gaps leave too much room to imagine virtues that may never have existed. And yet the question remains fascinating because of the heroic actions and gray areas that the record suggests. Consider, for example, the case of the Maroon leader Abraham. During the Second Seminole War, was Abraham a hero when he worked with General Jessup to convince Black warriors to surrender? He might have seemed like a hero to his fellow Maroons in 1837 and 1838 when they exchanged their arms for the liberty that Jessup promised. And yet that liberty ultimately proved elusive out west. Abraham can be excused for not accurately forecasting events for the Western emigrants. He was decidedly not a hero, however, to those plantation slaves who surrendered in Florida in 1837 and 1838 only to be returned to chattel slavery. Many of these same plantation slaves, who were distinct from Abraham's immediate followers among the black Seminoles, had responded positively just a year or two earlier to his calls for slave rebellion. As plantation slaves went back to their masters in Florida, while watching black Seminoles emigrate west under a promise of freedom, one can excuse the plantation slaves for concluding that Abraham had sold them down the river.
Nah, niggas wanted to go back, nigga. Matter of fact, because they tried to, really push that during their time doing this as far as in the 30s. There was a lot of people running from plantations in the 30s. Man, there's been ties going on way before. Talking about ties going on way before the 30s. So then they talking about. I thought that was already right there. Yeah. Then they talking about. Yeah, that there's a difference between the people that was following and them and going out west. But they was also trying to say, that's why I really wasn't figuring out. They was like, yeah, man, some people thought that it was better, I guess, for them to be slaves instead of fighting or something like that. We was reading that, I guess, I don't know if that was part 4 or part 3. So I find that interesting, that right there. But then to say that he gave up the niggas, but Kaja gave up 200. And then on top of that, they killing people that's doing stuff like that. And he outlived everybody that was doing that time frame. On top of that, just like how they tried to highlight Wildcat, talking about, oh yeah, he with his friends. They tried to highlight, they try to put it as like a glory story. So we got to look at that, you know what I'm saying? When they talking about somebody else, oh, they did the right thing, it was all good, family. But with Abraham do something, did he sell out these people? Was these family? Did they want to go back? And then on top of that, they say that the nigga wanted, man. He been doing this and this and doing this and doing that. He done got a general day. He was at the table way before that. And they saying that he just going around walking the plantation to plantation and getting niggas. Said that they responded to his calls for rebellion. But they stopped. But at the same time, they say this was the biggest war that the government had. The Seminole War, they spent the most money, lost the most people. But Kaja gave up 200, and who did Negro Abraham give up? What, the people that just went west with him? So I did think that was interesting. I'm like, man, they never bringing up saying leading up to Jackson in the 18 teams. It's always, they all came down from Georgia, South Carolina. They all came down from Georgia, South Carolina. They really don't emphasize motherfuckers in Florida just being in Florida, I guess, from the plantations in Florida. Like I say, they didn't really try to highlight that, I don't know, but within this building get down into the 30s. And then also gonna say that, it was a 50-50. Some thought it was good to go back and some thought that it wasn't. But then gonna say that Abraham sold the niggas out. All the niggas. And because the niggas went out west, which it was many different instances where the niggas told the niggas to come to Tampa Bay on this particular day, and you a free man. You're going out west. You got property. All you gotta do is, I guess, give up Atlanta, give up some horses or something like that. But at the same time, they still took their guns. So that's the one thing I really didn't understand. They talking about gave up their guns, but the niggas came down here with their guns, so they really didn't even give up their guns. Just like I said, man, we gotta read between the lines. Just like we was reading between the lines when they never brought up South Carolina to Africa, never brought up the town of Africa, but was pushing the early 1700s since Fort Mose. And there was a couple other things. And it switched out like that. Yeah, what's going on? Great. Great. But niggas talking about, yeah, he worked with General Jessup. He worked with General Jessup, but it was already written and already agreed that niggas was going out west way before General Jessup came around. Way before General Jessup came around. Now, as far as when niggas is gonna leave and how niggas is gonna leave, that's a different story. But still, at the end of the day, niggas got the government to say, y'all free, and we ain't tripping no more. Cause y'all gonna be bad for business. We ain't taking y'all to no plantation, cause y'all just gonna tear up something. Y'all gonna kill, or y'all just gonna make it, or y'all gonna influence the other slaves to run away also. So y'all gonna be bad for business. And on top of that, y'all dangerous, y'all active. We need, you know what I'm saying? Y'all fought hard for y'all, for how y'all felt about the situation, your land, your family, and nigga, y'all can go out here, or it's all good. And you know what I'm saying, to get that in writing, and you know what I'm saying, to get that push from a long time of dealing and skirmishes and going back and forth, I don't see how they can smut a nigga out. And that's a history setting type situation. Literally. Like, but it's under the carpet, it's under the rug, it's tucked up under. Or, you know, ain't nobody really gonna understand what's going on and how it happened and what gave the abolitionists and the anti-slave activists a battery in their back and more confidence to you know what I'm saying, to say, okay, yeah, we gonna free all of them, you know what I'm saying? Everybody should be free. You know what I'm saying? It's bad business. This is bad, you know what I'm saying? This will really put the battery in their back, but they not gonna explain it like that because you got these same people talking about that they Seminoles. They not talking about they from somewhere else. They talking about they from right here. As you see, they putting immigrants on there with the EM, not with the IM. With the EM, not with the IM. And it's like I say, they was treating them off of a powers of war type. You know what I'm saying? Captures the war within this land and they opponents within this land. And there was a certain way they had to deal with that. And so it's like I say, for us to get that and to try to smut a nigga out and say, oh yeah, they felt bad because them niggas got to go west and they didn't. I felt like that's some bullshit because of the simple fact it was 3. Matter of fact, it was like 5. It was like 5 to 6 ways of trips. Matter of fact, I think it was way more than that. But 5 or 6 ways of trips for sure. A nigga is being able to come out west. So for niggas to be like, to say, oh yeah, the niggas felt like niggas sold them down the river. Niggas much wasn't tied in. That's what I'm saying. I was getting some Taylor vibes. I'm getting Taylor vibes because I ain't understanding. Because that's what I'm saying. It don't even make sense for these niggas to even be listening to this nigga like this. Like, why the hell they just didn't hang this nigga? He a nigga. He a so-called slave. He a runaway. He this, he that. He fucked up in the game. Why they just, whenever he got around the white people, why they just didn't gun him down and just hang? They let them call shots. They let them do this. They let them sit at the table. They let them do that. They let them do this. Why didn't the Indians or why didn't nobody else just hang them and gun them down? He bad people. Why didn't the other niggas? Drag them through the waters. And that's why I say, man, I gotta, they try to smut out my peoples, but I ain't seeing it because they gonna highlight Hydro 200. So a nigga is giving up for some other niggas to be fucked up while some other niggas get to go be free. Like, that shit don't even make sense. That shit don't even make sense. You gonna let these niggas free, but these niggas gotta stay fucked up. So once again, we got the two-headed snake with the forked tongue. As we've been reading through this whole JohnHorse.com, there's been a lot of two-headed snake forked tongue language. Or they say one thing and say another thing. But it's all good. I'm gonna keep it lit on that end.
In other ways, he was a complex figure. His legacy is associated with wily diplomacy and sage leadership, also with allegations of bribes and side deals that benefited himself over his community. In one of history's final visions of him, Abraham claimed to lead an uncertain and unhappy life due to enmities that followed him out west. These enmities appear to have included lingering hostility from Seminole Indians who felt that he had contrived to get them into the war and then contrived to compel their surrender.
Nigga said that he got them into the war. So, once again, it's going back to the point where they say, oh yeah, the nigga was a slave. Oh yeah, the niggas was following certain people, but we find out that these niggas is listening to the nigga, and you can see the little shit like this when they say, oh yeah, niggas, some niggas is probably grumbling and shit because they, probably felt like the leadership wasn't on point. So was he the leader, or wasn't he wasn't he not the leader? And it's like I say, when you go back and look at it, it was already agreed to go west. That's why the niggas came out here and looked at the land. But the thing is, it was the agreement that niggas was gone. That the government was gone. That they'll be able to chill in Florida. And, you know what I'm saying? The government was going to come through with everything for a certain amount of time frame. And then they was going to go west. But then when the government seen they didn't have enough money to be able to, you know what I'm saying, to be able to provide it for that time frame, that's when they started pushing the line on them, saying, oh, y'all niggas got to move around. The time is up. You know what I'm saying? And, you know what I'm saying, some of the chiefs wasn't feeling in that. And, but, niggas got at a lot of regiments, a lot of battles. And everybody ain't gonna like the decision that's made at the top. Everybody ain't gonna like the decisions that's made at the top, but decisions gotta be made. But as far as the goofy shit, I mean, really, them niggas. I mean, niggas could have stayed and niggas could have did whatever they really wanted to do. Niggas was really doing whatever they really wanted to do. So that's why I really don't know why they putting it like that. You know what I'm saying? Gotta blame it on the nigga, but I don't see nothing. I don't see no talk down on none of them people. Except for like Charlie. But they killed him. And it's like I say, you know what I'm saying? They kill you if you bad people. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, they stopped the law. They had to stop the law in like the 1880s. Where, you know what I'm saying, they hold their own court, but the way they hold their court is, you know what I'm saying, if you was really bad people and you really did something bad, you had to go meet them at this tree. This tree was the courthouse. You know what I'm saying? Go meet them at the tree and go get your issue. They, you know what I'm saying, they handle it right there. You're going to shoot you right there, get you over with, or whatever the decision is made, but you can die right there at the tree. But if you don't show up, they're going to go get somebody in your family, and that was the law. So all this trying to paint my peoples as bad peoples, and he outlived all these people. That shit just don't even make no sense when you dealing with riders. You know what I'm saying? When you dealing with killers, I already pointed out the fact too that when they talking about that as far as when they was trying to tell the motherfucking I guess the Seminole chiefs to, you know what I'm saying, turn in the niggas and whoop whoop whoop, do this and do that. And I guess some of them was trying to do some things and shit. They got killed. The chiefs, certain people that was prominent got killed. You know what I'm saying? Playing like that, getting too close, playing police. So I just find it very ironic that he was able to just, be scot-free and don't nobody slap him or pinch him, nothing. They ain't get shot, nothing. But then again, on one of the little bills that I did see where he was writing to somebody. He was writing to one of them people that had came down to Oklahoma with him. And it seemed like he was making a difference between them and the Seminoles or the Miccosukis or something like that. But it was like a difference though. So when I be looking at that, I just be saying, okay, man, that's just like some different sets. It's like a whole bunch of different sets on the turf. Everybody from the turf, but everybody from like different blocks though. Like certain groups, you know what I'm saying? This block, this, you know what I'm saying? But niggas all up under one umbrella though. Big dog OG Philly. What it do. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like I said, I seen it. He like, shit, niggas act like niggas supposed to be scared of them or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, niggas really ain't tripping on what they doing. And he said that, so I don't know if it was like, I guess beefs in between. I mean, I'm pretty sure it is because it's always it be shit going on 2025 and niggas don't get along. And niggas supposed to be from the same whatever. And niggas doing backdoor shit to each other within the turf. So when it's involving the government on top of that too, we're talking about Fed. So but they ain't coming at nobody else, they ain't put no, and that's why I call it flugazi. It's because I ain't hearing no other Indian being smutted out. Ain't no other Indian did bad. With all the writers. How the motherfucking Black Indian chief, war leader chief, was one of the war leaders. The war party. Was head of the war party. Had his own town and village. Got General Dade and them up out of here, set the record. You know what I'm saying? They blocked set the record. So I can see why they'll write him off bad, whatever move he make and whatever decision he make. If it ain't democratic, it's a bad decision. Nah, it ain't a bad decision. Especially when niggas been doing backdoor shit. Niggas really can't trust none of these niggas. And on everything, it's all kind of adding up to me now. Because it's like I said, when he did write that letter, and I'm gonna try to find that too. When he did write that letter, he did make a difference between like his clique and like somebody else clique. Like, shit, who scared of them? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the niggas been saying some threatening shit, but ain't nobody worried about that. And I find that profoundly interesting. But I definitely find it a bigger profound, throughout all this, during these war times, that they not smutting out nobody else. Don't nobody else got no smut on them. And the people that they do say they got smut, they come with a glory story. Oh, yeah, we had to get them up out of here. We killed them. We did this. We did that. We handled business. Now niggas unhappy with the leadership. Nigga, fuck that.
Hero or pragmatist? It is not hard to find writers who now call him a hero, perhaps because they are eager to find black role models from the slavery era. The historical Abraham might have appreciated this honor, but those closest to him and perhaps even the man himself probably viewed his career with more realism. John Horse. Spacer. Go for John, Seminole interpreter, engraving by N. Orr, 1858, originally published in Joshua Reed Giddings' The Exiles of Florida, 1858. What about John Horse? Was it heroic of John Horse to help lead the exodus of 100 Maroons from the Indian Territory to Mexico in 1849 to 1850? Hollywood would depict it that way. But the case for beatification is harder to make when one considers the profession that John Horse was riding toward in Mexico: defender of the frontier, border guard, professional Indian killer. The Maroons under John Horse appear to have scouted Mexican Indians less enthusiastically than their Seminole Indian counterparts did. And yet history leaves no doubt that these were hard men who brokered with the powerful interests of their day to ensure their own survival. On the positive side, John Horse, even more than Abraham, surely undertook actions that can be depicted as heroic. His career suggests strong instances of daring.
Come on, man. How they gonna try to put my people against each other like this? See, man, this is the double-headed snake, the forked tongue, to try to downplay one man's get down to try to uplift another man's get down within the same section. I mean, I don't know, when a nigga got more bodies than a nigga, niggas gotta take a back seat to that, man. And niggas sitting at the table. It's like I say, that shit don't make no sense for a nigga. For I ain't gonna say it don't make no sense because I can see it happening. But you know how they just tried to paint history, how they was trying to paint it like, oh yeah, the nigga run away, the nigga fucked up, the nigga really ain't kind of got nothing going up on. I mean, really ain't got nothing going on. He really like an underlink up under some motherfucking Indians. You know what I'm saying? They try to paint it like that damn near. You know what I'm saying? But then be trying to sneak in the accomplishments and all the great shit. It's like, damn, how the nigga get that off if a nigga was so fucked up? You know what I'm saying? But and then it's like I say, that's crazy that they say that because Ben got caught up with all the family, and Abraham came through like that. As far as sitting at the table during the war, but still at the same time, it was still going on. So, guess they're trying to say that the niggas that's in Florida, I don't even see how niggas got left behind when niggas could have came with Bowlegs. Or niggas could have came with John Horse. I don't see how niggas got left behind. Yeah. When Abraham came, it was like hundreds of the motherfuckers like I already did the build on them with all the motherfucking names on the motherfucking, you know what I'm saying? All the names that was on the thing that had came out west on the boat. It was over hundreds. So hundreds got to come out west while some other ones had to get enslaved at the plantation. Like, come on, man. That shit ain't even making no sense. Then they're trying to put John Horse against Abraham and don't even know he was the blood hump.
On the positive side, John Horse, even more than Abraham, surely undertook actions that can be depicted as heroic. His career suggests strong instances of daring action that benefited an extended community of followers. And unlike Abraham, he appeared to enjoy the respect of his community, even of his enemies, throughout a long and fabled career. The historical record is thin, which needs to be acknowledged by anyone handing out accolades, but in the life of John Horse, history certainly leaves the impression of someone who was able to pursue his enlightened self-interest, often against great odds, while changing the world around him for the benefit of others. In terms of self-sacrifice, noble virtue, and being a person for others, John Horse indeed appeared heroic.
So a nigga brought the most people. The nigga that brought the most people with him, the most black Seminoles to come through the boat, came through with Abraham. The niggas wasn't fucking with him. I told you that they had a tree. So, nigga get the white boy to say, it's all good. Ain't no more. We ain't tripping no more. Go out west. Get the land. We gonna fund everything. And continue funding everything. But it's the nigga fault. But when niggas get here, there's some other white boy that's on some other shit. There been other shit going on, nigga, the whole time. There been other shit going on the other time. The whole time. But a nigga get a little bit of leeway, nigga get a little bit of light. Nigga get a nigga crack the door open a little bit. And a nigga fucked up for trying to get niggas in the door. But nigga done did the right. Nigga got the most kills. But nigga got the most kills. Nigga did the most kills. Nigga done did that. Now what? The women and the kids supposed to be enslaved. It's been this wave, this wave, this wave. People been enslaved, people been killed. A lot of shit been took. And the nigga bad peoples for getting General Jessup to be the first white man in history. First white man in history in the military to go against the grain. That's crazy. Like my nigga Seagram say, niggas can't win for losing.
In the end, whether one believes that John Horse and Abraham were individual heroes, it's still possible to assess the heroism of their community's collective actions. From their earliest roots, Black Seminoles created a safe haven for individuals fleeing American slavery. From the time before the Treaty of New York, 1790, to the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, they affected American policy at the highest levels as it related to slavery. During the critical period leading up to the U.S. Civil War, their example inspired firebrands and statesmen, from Joshua Reed Giddings to Frederick Douglass to Abraham Lincoln. And they were among the greatest American pioneers. From Florida to Texas, they broke new ground as farmers, hunters, warriors, soldiers, interpreters, and diplomats. And as they pursued their communal interests, they didn't just advance a geographic frontier, they also advanced the frontiers of freedom, tangibly, by contributing a legal precedent for emancipation, and, less tangibly but no less significantly, by furnishing American history with a stirring example of blacks taking up arms to defeat the slave power.
So, Abraham was at the head of this slave power thing. That's what I'm saying. The double-headed snake with the forked tongue. The black slaves did this, the black slaves did this. The black Seminoles did this, the black Seminoles did that. But the person that's the leader is bad people. The person that was the leader of them, the person that was the leader of this specific group that did this historical thing is bad people. How that makes sense? How the hell do it make sense for some motherfuckers to say that, yeah, motherfucker came and got me from the plantation and wouldn't let me go out west and turn me in? Like, what? A nigga came to come get you from the plantation just to turn you back into the plantation. Like, should be crazy, man.
For these contributions, America's most successful black freedom fighters deserve a spot in every general textbook of American history. Hopefully they will one day soon appear there. I hope they are depicted with historical accuracy, not as sanctified heroes or emblems of a multicultural society that some people feel we are destined to become, but as complex men and women who faced the challenges of their day with creativity and perseverance, and who remind us vividly of the frontier-seeking, freedom-loving, multicultural society that America has always been.
And that's the end of Rebellion to JohnHorse.com. And that was a good and there was some good information up in there, man. I appreciate them putting that website together and having this information available, you know, to read, to critique, to acknowledge, to learn. Ain't gonna front. I appreciate. I really do. A lot of things that I agree, some things that I don't agree. But it's still all love. It's a fact. We gonna figure it out. But we still going through it out here. You know what I'm saying? I'm part of the people. Hopefully that whoever did put this together is part of the people's also. Real though. But what we finna do now, we finna look at this, finna go on and finish it up. Finish up this classic 5-part, which I thought it was just gonna be just a one-day type situation, but it ended up being 5 parts of great information. So a lot of information, a lot of angles in there to debate on. A lot of interesting debate points in there. And I appreciate that. It's on the fact. But what we finna do, man, we finna go on and wrap this up, man, with this John Horse R-Ray unveiling that we had last year in last summer. We got the highway. We got a section of the highway with John Horse name after. In We Town, we Woka still going. You know, they trying their best to make it a ghost town. They really trying their best to make it a ghost town for real though. But you know, we got a different type of blood that pumping to us, man. Even though we going through internal, it's still being going through internal. We're gonna get through it. So make sure that you're pulled up and rolled up. You know, I'm so glad that you showed up. Comment, like, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend. And do it again.
And stop all of the fussing and fighting amongst one. Connected to John Boy. But then you go on a little farther, we all are connected. That's right. We all are connected. And that's one thing that we all need to recognize is how much we're connected and stop all of the fussing and fighting amongst one another. That's right. But we can do things together, and this is one thing that we have to do together. So I want to welcome everybody. I want to welcome all those that came from afar. And I may not know your title or the name of your organization, but right now you can have an opportunity to stand and tell us your name and your title of your organization that you represent. Amen. Anybody here? I know we have like to lead y'all.
My bad. So the dude up there talking up front, I forgot his name, but he the chief of the Barkis Band. That's the chief of the Barkis Band.
I'm Texas. I'm Lee Young, and I'm the principal chief of the Seminole tribe of Texas. That's a big man. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, family and friends. I'm Chief Tommy Pearman of the United Warrior Band of the Seminole Nation / John Horse Band, and the CEO and founder of the Warren Pearman Foundation for Native American Research. I'm also a Chief Ambassador for the League of Indian Nations of North America, National Indian Government.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ann Gaines Ali, A-L-I. I am the president of the Plenty Faith Cemetery Association, which was started in 1973 by my mother. I'm also the founder of the Facebook page, Seminole, Black Seminoles of the Oklahoma Indian Territory, and Friends. And I am the third youngest, I'm sorry, I can get this right. Stop slipping. The Negro Abraham is my third great grandfather. I am the youngest great grandchild of his. There are more after me, and there is at least one person ahead of me, and that's going to be through his wife, Rachel. Now, he had a few other wives, but between him and Rachel, I am his youngest, third great grandfather. And the reason why there is an age gap between the rest of us is after my brother moved out of the house, my parents had too much time on their hands, and here I am. All right.
They say when the cat's away, the rats will play, right? You know what? Later, Negro Abraham was supposedly in a court system or a girlfriend or whatever. Of course, his sister. One had 2 boys, and they're supposedly had through that
museum. It don't cost us anything. Richard put this together in a one-day notice. He had to call in workers. And I just want to show him my gratitude and thankfulness for his help. And I want to give this museum a donation for their help and concern, for allowing us to come here today. Is that okay?
That's all right.
Is that okay? All right. Brother, that's okay. That's okay. I just want to do that out of kindness from my heart. And if you don't have anything, that's fine. If you do, that's fine. Just trying to donate to the museum for help. You can pass this around. It's not an obligation. It's not an obligation. All right. Now, at this time, I want to also recognize someone that we cannot, if he lasts, is not least. And that's our chief of the Seminole name, Louis Johnson. Brian Palmer. So we're going to just thank them for the food. They paid for the food. It's pretty good. That's right. Make sure we thank them, but we're not fast to have them. Okay, my business is about over with. I just want to say, this is something that began and was created that I thought of in my mind to put the signs up and for me to see everybody here today and it come to fruition. I just want to thank everybody, the Pittman, the AJ, everybody, the people that paid for the signs. I want to thank you, everybody that's here to celebrate this occasion.
Will you hold this?
Because I know
Will you hold this?
and I'm thankful that I'm here today.
Keep it on him. Because it's live. It's on Facebook.
And make this happen. So I just want to thank everybody. And it's an honor to stand there before you. All right? I'm going to turn this over into the hand of someone that the clouds open up when you walk through. Ms. Anastasia Pittman, our council rep, our secretary, the one that she doesn't just talk about it, she is about it. It's not too much that we can do without her. So I want to give it to you. Take that left hand and that right hand.
Here you go. Juanita, let's sit up, bring your chair over here.
Richard, let them see who you are. This is the man who's walking on one leg.
All right.
Bring your chair over here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And you are welcome anytime. And you don't even have to pay.
Sit down, sit down.
Thank you so much to our band chief, Dylan Marcus, of the Dusty Barker band. We are honored to be here. So I will say to you, Nijite, Ishtambo, I am Hutchie Malika, I am Running River Water, and I'm from the Dusty Barker band and I'm happy to be here. Our chief is here, our assistant chief is here, and we want to welcome all of you, especially give me the honor and the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker. We have two of them today. Outstanding historian, Ms. Denise Vasquez Welch from the Juana and John Horse Seminole Descendants Alliance and Incorporated. So I want to welcome you, give you just a brief history of her. She is a Seminole descendant, proud Seminole descendant, and 4 times great-granddaughter of Juana, who is the sister of the warrior chief John Horse. Her rich heritage includes being 3 times the great-granddaughter of Cuppy Payne and Bessie Boles, Isaac and Suki Gordon, and Santiago and Juana Vasquez of the Moscogos offshoot family line of the Nacimiento, Mexico. Denise is the daughter of Marcelo, and he's here. Raise your hand. Marcelo and has a notable lineage with several great-grandfathers, great-uncles, and numerous cousins who Seminole Negro Indian Scouts of Texas. Denise has served 23 years in the United States Army and retiring as Chief Warrant Officer 3, CW3, and she is the Chief Executive Officer and CEO and the founder of the Lana and John Horse Seminole Descendants Alliance, Incorporated. Her dedication and service continues through her active involvement in numerous organizations, including Disabled Veterans, Wounded Warrior Project, the Mission Continues, the American Legion of Seminole Wars Foundation, the Seminole Indian Scout Cemetery Association, which is called SISCA, the Florida Black Historical Research Project, Incorporated, and the Afro-American Genealogical Historical Society, which is in Central Florida chapter. The Black Historical Research Project, American Legion of Seminole Wars Foundation, the Seminole Indian Scout Cemetery Association, which is called SISCA, the Florida Black Historical Research Project, Incorporated, and the Afro-American Genealogical Historical Society, which is in Central Florida chapter. Denise holds a Bachelor of Science in Management from the University of Maryland and is currently pursuing a certification in genealogy from Boston University, and she is supported by her loving husband, Benjamin Wilt Jr., who is also present with us today. They have traveled all the way from Florida. So like our band chief said, put your left hand and your right hand together. Please come forward. All right, come on. All right. All right. You stuck down on time. What else are we supposed to do? We got the special remarks, we got the guest speakers, so the occasion and the guest introductions. We did the opening prayer and then after you we will have our revoking historian. But our speaker, Chief, come on the flame. Chief, come on up here. Yeah. Our special performance by Andrew Martin. Please give your remarks and tell us about the Seminole Nation.
We appreciate everyone that's here today. To Revoca, county of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, the original home of John Horse, and many Seminoles have lived in and around this area. Residency quarters for traveling to Mexico, eventually settling many of them in their areas. But before that, I go any further, I want you to introduce a gentleman that's been a very great asset to the executive office of the Seminole Nation. A chief and an assistant chief ought to be close in their areas of the policies and in the areas that we're going to take the direction of the Seminole Nation. This young man has been a great asset to me as the principal chief, and I'm going to let him say a few words before that I get into my remarks, and then pass on as well. Before that he comes up, I want to do this. Many of you remember Chief Jerry Hayden. Jerry was a three-term chief for the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, and a leader. He was served his country as the Special Forces Green Beret. We were in the Finance Committee yesterday, late in the afternoon, and his daughter texted me and let me know that he has left this walk of life. That's how we call it down here among us Seminoles. You leave this walk of life. Because when you leave this walk of life, you step right into the next one. Right. Praise be to the Creator for that promise that we all have. But let's do a moment of silence. He did so much in the area of contributions, both service-wise, program-wise, building the nation at that time. And he was a great collaborator with people of all backgrounds. He really was. And I know he worked diligently in several areas with the tribal government. I was on the council when he was the principal chief for 8 years at that time. I was Tallahassee band chief for a period of that time as well. So at this time, we're going to remember him with a moment of silence. If we could just for a brief. Thank you very much. So the assistant chief of the Seminole Nation, I always share my time with him, and that's true with the chief, because we was before the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, and how many know when you're in Washington and you're before the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, just think how much time they give you to speak. 5 minutes. But I shared my time with the assistant chief during that time. We got our message across during that period, and I always like to acknowledge him. We work together. Chief and assistant chief ought to walk alongside each other, not one in front and one behind, but alongside each other. Assistant Chief of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, Brian P. Palmer.
Thank you, Chief Johnson, for that introduction. It's always humbling to be able to, as he said, walk alongside him. It's great to be here today to see the collaboration and the effort to honor John Horse. My tribal band, the Argo Band, was originally the Oconee people. John Horse was raised among the Oconee people. So you see that throughout the history of all of our people, there is that connection and that link that ties all of us together. And it's really great to be here, to be a part of this ceremony, to honor John Horse. Thank you for inviting us and
come on, because you know how this is arranged. We have some gifts from the speakers this afternoon from the executive office. So you know which bag is whose, so if you would just get that on our back.
Thank you so very much to Chief Louis Johnson and to our Assistant Chief Brian Palmer. On behalf of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, they want to present these gifts to our speakers and to our special guests. So we would like to call up Ms. Denise Vasquez Welch, Mr. Willie Tillman, and State Representative A.J. Pittman, who is also Seminole and a member of the Bus Party. You all will stand right here for the good. We got to get a picture real quick. Y'all come stand right here next to the chief, assistant chief.
I'll leave my remarks very brief today. I know the rest of excellent speakers are coming forward. They had asked me to play a song on these native blues. They definitely Woka is proud to have the history of John Horse aligned with it. And I know not a lot of people know this, but some of you may. Back before right about the Civil War period, a little bit after that, there was a delegation that was coming from the east. I can mention what tribe it was. It was a large delegation. And they came here to this area, the Woka area. And what they did is we didn't have land of our own at the time. Seminole Nation. And they shared that all those that are persons of African descent among the Seminoles must lay all their arms down. And that they were violating the laws of that time with that particular proclamation. And not only would they have to lay their arms down, but they could no longer congregate among the Seminole people in townships. And a lot of people don't know this, but this is a true happening. The Seminole Indians at that time came to the aid of John Horse and those others that were in this area. And they came. And even though they were outnumbered, most likely 10, 15 to 1, they said, how do you expect a man? rifle. And to protect his family, he got his rifle. At that time, there was still slave trafficking going on even in Indian territory. The Indian agent at that time was a part of it during that period of time. So there was plans on that day. The Seminole people came together during that time and stood for what was going on even in Indian territory. The Indian agent at that time was a part of it during that period of time. Got his rifle. At that time, there was still slave trafficking going on even in Indian territory. The Indian agent at that time was a part of it during that period of time. So there was plans on that day. The Seminole people came together during that time and stood for what the Creator expects us to do is to stand for one another and in time of need. And that is a true story. And because they didn't want a lot of attention brought to it, the Indian agent began to settle things down. And eventually, he was no longer an Indian agent during that period of time. But this song kind of brings everything together. And the pastor of the chief of the Seminoles that's been in office so long, it makes me think of this song. Because even though our hearts are saddened, we also know that we believe in a later outside of this box of life that we live in present, and that Creator's happiness is truly our happiness. It is. His happiness truly is our happiness. A lot of times, as human beings around the world, we don't align with that, and sometimes it just makes the miserable folk. We know that His happiness is our happiness. We call it "For Our Hearts Be Done." It's a song we often sing among us as Seminole people, and I'm going to play that today on the Native American Folk.
Great song. Love it. Love it.
Just a reminder that we are late into our program, so each speaker will just have 10 to 15 minutes.
As the next speaker is coming up, I just want you to know we have a delegation from the Chickasaw Nation of Oklahoma coming in. There's probably about 35, 40 people coming in. They didn't have their normal tour guide, and they asked me to open it up for them. Come on right now.
today. Porque iki pachangamo otmo ane these passes Welsh. Che yete ange che Seminole yete Seminole. Nosotros hablamos de Fiji. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Estado todo bien? Soy de mis pastos Welsh. Ane mucho gente desde hablo que somos negros nosotros. Nosotros pensamos que somos nosotros. We speak the Fiji. How are you? Is all well? I am Denise Vasquez Welsh. Many people say that we are black Seminoles. We, my people, say that we are just Seminoles. When we met Senator Anastasia Pittman and later her daughter, Representative A.J. Pittman, and they shared the incredible news that legislation had been passed to honor John Horse as the founder of Reviling. I was immediately overcome with trepidation. I wondered, do they grasp the weight of what they are asking of us? Do they understand why he and the family left and never returned in their lifetime? How could I convey the complexities of us descendants returning to a place fraught with such sorrow, memories from our forebears? As we discussed these concerns, it became clear to all of us that coming together was essential. We realized this moment was an opportunity to bring healing to our ancestors. It's with a heavy heart, full of emotion and gratitude, that I stand before you today. Returning to We Woke Up is more than just a journey back to a place on the map. It is a reinstatement to our roots, history, and kinship. It is a passage of restoration and reconciliation, a chance to honor the memories of those who came before us and to acknowledge the pain that they endured. It is an opportunity to reclaim our past and to ensure that the legacy of the ancestors is always remembered. This moment is deeply humbling and profoundly significant as it represents a full circle of healing and celebration for us. As the descendants of our ancestors, Seminole warrior Chief John Horse. Over 175 years ago, our community was still reeling from the brutal forces of an Indian Removal Act and the colonizers' persistent practice of their slave trade, a system that was trying to tear us from our families, the collective society, and our unified tribe. Under the leadership of John Horse and alongside his determined spirit of his sister, my 4-time great-grandmother, Juana, our side of the family had to make a difficult decision to leave the home they had just settled in. The pain and trauma of that dark chapter have echoed through generations. Nevertheless, the voice of resilience and strength within our Seminole people has sounded louder. Our history is of steadfast resistance, staunch survival, and a successful expedition to maintain absolute freedom for the people has prevailed. As a child, my father and Aunt Tila would recount stories of our ancestors' bravery and tenacity. They spoke of Abuela Juana and the unimaginable sorrow she endured when 2 of her children, Sarah and Lena, were kidnapped not far from where we stand right now. Despite many people working together to recover them, they never were returned to her. The unbelievable sacrifices she had to make for her family and community can never be put into words. As you can see from my family, these sparkling waters hold memories of heartbreaking loss and separation. But today, they are of reconnection and hope. Those stories have been a source of strength and inspiration throughout my life, reminding me of the importance of our heritage holds, and the unconquered spirit that lives within our people every day. The Seminole Wars of Florida, spanning from 1817 to 1858, over 3 separate time periods, were among the most costly and prolonged conflicts in the history of the United States of America. This epic saga
Seminole Saga is a powerful narrative of courage and defiance. Faced with the threat of displacement and atrocities, our ancestors fought back. We fought side by side with our kinsmen and other prominent Seminole chiefs, Nicanoli, Osceola, Billy Bowlegs, Alligator, and Abiaka, including the leader and interpreter Abraham. As we all engage in a relentless struggle against oppression, we refuse to surrender our land, our freedom, or our identity. In founding the Wana and John Horace Seminole Descendants Alliance Corporation, my aim has always been to preserve, celebrate our rich history, to educate others about that history, and to support the descendants of those who fought so bravely for freedom of all people. Today, standing here in Wewoka, I feel a profound sense of fulfillment. For us, descendants are welcomed so warmly to rejoin the family. We would like to highlight a specific bridge of unity that has been reconnected. It is with our special guest, Chief Sekou Hajo Junteli. He already introduced himself, so there you go. And his wife and children weren't able to come here, but we hold him in spirit. And he is the descendant of Abiaka, like he said, Sam Jones. And that was a vital connection that we were able to reestablish. This is the accumulation of a long and arduous journey that all our relatives made, and it's ending with the satisfaction of healing and harmony. As we gather here today, let us remember the depth and perseverance that each and every one of us in the family has made. Let us honor their memory by continuing to build bridges of unity towards one another. Let us ensure that their sacrifices have been vindicated and that their legacy lives on within each of us. I invite all of you to join us in this mission. We call it an awakening and reconciliation movement, ARMS for short. And by linking arms with us, you can help preserve our history, support our community, and ensure that the future generations understand the importance of our shared heritage. Together, we can continue the work of healing, reconnection, and remembrance. This revolutionary movement is a powerful reminder of the enduring human spirit, of our capacity to overcome even the most formidable challenges. It is a testament of strength, of family, community, and heritage. And it's a call to action to continue the work of our unconquered lineage. Thank you for being here today, for sharing in this monumental event, bestowing a memorial highway dedication sign honoring Seminole warrior John Horace as the founder of this great city. We woke up Oklahoma, a day of reflection, restoration, and celebration. Commemorating Chief John Horace honors his contributions and ensures that his legacy of courage and resistance continues to inspire future generations. Today, we honor the past, embrace the present, and look forward to a future filled with hope and unity. Sonovici, gracias, Maduro. Thank you.
All right, now we have one more historian and speaker from Wewoka, Oklahoma. This is, and as we continue our program and welcome you, thank you so much again for coming. But we want you now to experience Wewoka. We want you to experience Wewoka through the historical gentleman. He is the executive director of the sister branch of the Oklahoma Black Historical Society and Research Project, Mr. Willard Tillman. We call him Mr. Wewoka.
Well, we are here to basically celebrate John Horace and founding of Wewoka. Lord, y'all knew Wewoka way back then. Yes. I'm telling you something. Yes. So Wewoka was a town where there were remember a guy by the name of Fred. You know, grandfather was a roommate. So Fred would always be on the front porch on Sunday morning. He was Native American. Fred come home in the house. That's how it was. That's how it should be now. But let's get into the war. You know, as we started to talk about the war and talk about all the things that had to do that were nature, that were native and culture, you know, there was a black side of the war. So a lot of them was in the middle with Native Americans. You know, that thing they call Cedar Street. Oh, that was the Broadway of the war. You know, I mean, it was the hot spots, the hotels, you know, the private sort of kind of business, you know, that went on down on that side. Now, one thing about the war, a lot of these other towns, we didn't stay on the other side of the track. You know, this side of the track. Starting from Park Street, running on up, going on back to the south. That was good for us. We had all kinds of thriving businessmen and things of this nature. That's young gentleman over here on this wall right here. You know, I ain't gonna go too far with this. That's that James Cruz Johnson. Now, he was one of those people that basically was an entrepreneur. He was an economic development person. And he was about making money and protecting other people's money. If you want to know something, you know, about this little old town called Reviling, during that particular time, we were the third largest town in Oklahoma. Isn't that something? On top of that, we basically produced 22% of our production for this here old thing they call the United States. That's how Charles got to keep our capital. You know, but it basically came right out of this area right here. That's just a tip of the iceberg. Let's get into it. You know, there was a lot of things that basically happened with Jacob Johnson and everything. It had to do with the relationship between the people that were associated within the tribe. There were people that say they could associate, they couldn't marry, they couldn't do all these things. Well, it all came to the point where as their life, they had to go to Washington, D.C. And when they went to Washington, D.C., they started to talk about, I ain't gonna tell you who I be with. All those kind of things. He ordered that case, asked him not to do it, but he didn't win that one. You know, he did not win that case. But I have to say, the man was entrepreneur. He basically was the founder of this group. It was a group of people. He had two in Muskogee, he had two in Boulder, and he had one here in Oklahoma. And that one person was J.Q. Johnson. He was the one that basically established this thing. And y'all must keep in mind, agriculture was the base of all this stuff that went on during that time. It was the base of this thing. He had two in Boulder, and he had one here in Oklahoma. And that one person was J.Q. Johnson. He was the one that basically established this thing. And y'all must keep in mind, agriculture was the base of all this stuff that went on during that time. It was the base. Everybody dealt in agriculture. You had farms, black folks had farms, they ran cattle, they did all of these things. But there was one good thing about these five people right here. They wanted to basically ship black agriculture to the world. So established. They had 2 in Muskogee, they had 2 in Bowling, and they had 1 here in Reviling. Now this was all hooked up with the National Baptist Convention, and it was a fight of everything, because they had never seen 5,000 to 6,000 black folks come together. You know, for this thing, whereas black agriculturists showed their goods to the world. And I tell you, wasn't too long after that till certain things started happening. You know, there started to be all kinds of bad things. You know, we just got too much. You know, we shouldn't have this. You know, and as you know, Tulsa and all of the others, but I'm gonna stay in the war. You know, I'm gonna stay on point. I'm gonna stay in the war. We talk about that on the side. You know, that street down there, named Cedar Street, that was cheap. That Billy Rose something up there. He had this big cedar tree in his yard. That's how it became Cedar Street. Cedar Street was the bright lights of the city. It was. You had George DeBoe, you had Mama Bai, you had a hotel, you had the Pink Pussycat, you had Buster Bars, cab stand. You get a little bit more than it. Just a rat. And a price or something. I'm just saying. And where the film home is down there, that used to be the movie theater. The young guy out of Shawnee used to travel all the way down here on Wednesday. And you know, that's where they went to the movies. On Wednesday night. Right there at it's now a film home, but it used to be a movie theater. You know, there's so many things. That little strip right down there, you had Dr. Sayers, you had Dr. Coffee. These are all the prominent people of this city here. You know, they took care of all these people around there during that time. Oh, wait a minute. My grandfather had all this black service station right down that corner. Where that's TMCO is now. That used to be his service station. And everybody that really worked here, they all tried to go back and forth to Texasville, because that's where, you know, people were working. You know, and, you know, I was young, you know, didn't know too much about nothing. Always trying to learn something. Got in more trouble trying to learn something than I should. But this burger at the beauty shop, it was just a good time. Now, one of the highlights of the board was Eastern Salt and Lake. Okay, so on Seminole Street, right there, north of Park Street, 1 block, there was a 2-story building that was built right there, whereas at like Eastern Star and most of the Masons, everybody was there. But they had this one festive thing that they did once a year. I'm telling you, you see all these cars roll up, all these fine women get out, and then we have them all day. It's nice things, that's fast, and they had to go to the side. And this was a highlight of the book. You had people coming from Muskogee, all around and all over. But the good thing about the neighborhood at that time, they knew how to keep their business in the neighborhood. And then they used to use most of it was churches, and like I say, the Eastern Star and a lot of others. You know, what went on and what was good for that whole town, they kind of kept it under this umbrella, because if anything was ever leak out about something that was gonna make them better, you was gonna always have to conquer it. So they kind of just kept their stuff right in there, and before they know it, it was done. The community center, the living pool they had up here. You know, we had one of the best pools in the whole state of Oklahoma.
I swam in. I know. I swam in.
There you go. I mean, and it was just a good place to really bring your kids up. I mean, I had a good time, you know, growing up in the world. I mean, I paid for a lot of it. You know, I paid for a lot of it, but it was a good time. And all of the things that we basically were brought up in was education. Education. I mean, we didn't have white folks trying to tell us a lot of stuff. We had our own black superintendent of schools. Name was William Fraser. A genius. A genius. He had so many people that he basically put together and brought everybody all together. To whereas he had so many students here, we could actually play Douglas High School in football. That's just how many, I mean, from Arbica, from around New Lima, all the way up to Earlsburg, on down on the river. I mean, and then we had, well, we didn't call it the north side and south side. We both Blacktown. But we all met up on the park to play football against each other, north against the side. But, you know, it's an excellent place to bring kids up. But now, one of the things that was really, really important about growing up here, if you did something, and you know what you did was wrong, you wouldn't have to worry about whether or not somebody was going to find out about it. Before you even, I mean, it happened here on the park. You stay right here. By the time you got to your house, they was right there waiting. You know, but that was when people cared about people. You know, and they always like to look out for one another. You know, this young lady right here, now, her son, I'm still close to, but one of her sons was my classmate, Seminole, Carolina. This is Battle, Carolina. She was the first black teacher of the year in Oklahoma. The first black teacher of the year. That young lady down there on the end down there, Miss, one of your kids' out. She's right there off Seminole Street. Became one of the first federal judges in this here United States, black. You know, so there's a lot of prominent people come out to this little place called Coon Creek. I mean, that's one we kind of hang around. So, but like I say, Reviling has been a pillar of information. Okay. You had Miss Oliver Ruth James. You know, people like that wouldn't. I mean, you could be in a class, you could do all these kind of things, but she didn't put up with none of your mess. Now, Miss James was, when they kind of separated, split the schools up and everything, you know, Miss James, one of them ones that went up there, you know, with them folks up there, and had two or three others. You know, but it was the turn of the times for people like us to have to go there and not hear nothing about your own history. Right today, you know, we still got that problem. Nobody wants to talk about us. You know, the contributions that we made to everything. You know, nobody knows nothing about no iron. something about it. You know, it's just a tidbit of 100 different things that we have done to do this. But here in Walker, we made it a point to like beat the heck out of Walker High School when we was at that. They want to have a scrimmage with us. Right after that, they segregated all the school. Well, one of the things that I really wanted to say, John Horace made all this happen. A lot of this history. William Cole, Mr. True, Buster Barber, Tootin', y'all don't know who Tootin' was. Tootin' was a cab driver. We had black cab drivers down here. Boys, I know, as long as I know, he was a cab driver. You know, those are just people in general. Miss Newton, second grade teacher, Miss Gone, English. Without those people right here, a lot of those things happen to all those other people. So keep in mind, education is the key. I don't care who you are, what you are, anything. It is the key. It is the foundation for you to be able to make the next step into another place. Without you be trying to figure out what should I do. But the first thing that you have to do is commit to your own best well-being. Once you do that, therefore, you can start to make some real positive decisions about what is the right decision for me. Now, we were fortunate enough, I was getting a little, right with this. I'm getting up in age. I had to run to the doctor before I could come down here. Not that he was going to do nothing serious to me. He just wanted to tell me, I'm going to take you off them pills because you had kind of funny with you on me. But I don't know how these working, but I just took them a little while ago. But you got to keep in mind that, as long as we help somebody, as long as we can do that, I think that we can have a better place everywhere in this whole world. I know especially here we work. Now, I know that talking about Brother J. Cooper Johnson, I have chased Mr. Johnson's building for over 20 years trying to get this building. September of 2023, I purchased that building. I'm going to make a mini museum and I'm going to have an incubator for community outreach technical assistance for people who actually need it. So I don't have no boundaries, about what it is. If we need the house fixed, I don't have no money, so I can't make a phone. If there's some educational components and things like that, as far as actually trying to help people make good decisions about what they should do with their life. Hey, I'm just going to tell you right straight up, give you some advice. If I see you on the street messing up, I'm going to say, that is not what I told you. But now if that's the one you want to live, they got to put it in you. Now you got to straighten up here now. And let's get this right. So I know that people that start standing up, everything's fine.
I took control, went solo, and built my own online knife empire. I loved being a chef, but working in someone else's kitchen just wasn't cutting it for me. So I ordered 200 hand-forged knives to my dorm room and built a Wix website to sell them. Just like crafting the perfect knife.
Week, we reported that a Baltimore police officer was charged.
What it do, what it do, what it do. I think that's the end. Hold on real quick. Let me just double check. What's going on? Small technical difficulties, but let me take a look at this real quick to make sure that's the end of this real quick.
That greatest happiness is true.
Yeah, and that's gonna be the end of this chapter of the game day number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. About the legendary Black Seminole Chief, John Horse. Appreciate everybody tapping in. But until the next time, man, make sure that you're pulled up and rolled up. You know, I'm so glad that you showed up to comment, like, subscribe. Tell a friend and do it again. We got milestone thoughts, hit the mall, everything he bought. Big Dog Philly coming through, popping Willies. And we got Shot Son and Young Gun coming through, man, for the classic grill, man. I appreciate y'all boys commenting in the chat and showing love. You know, something good always got to come to an end.